during this time, I cannot tell you how grateful I am for social media. Y'all keep me sane. And YouTube. How many of y'all are grateful for YouTube? What's up, y'all? It's Rachel Elizabeth, and you're watching Real Talk with Rach, where we talk about real things, because it's the real, honest, hard, vulnerable things that get us deeper in relationship with others and deeper in intimacy with God. Something I've learned about myself in the last week or two is that I am a high energy introvert, and I'm not really sure if that's a thing scientifically. But I can tell you that I had gotten used to the schedule of going to class with 1,000 or so other students and then coming home and being completely wiped out and ready for bed at like 7 o'clock. But because of the quarantine, I'm not around that many people. And now it's driving me crazy to be stuck in a house. But I also think there's something to be said about the fact that my freedom has been taken away. And now all I want is to push those boundaries. Anyone else with me? It's human nature. We all do this. As soon as you tell us we can't do something, we want to do that thing. At the heart of it, it's wanting to be ruler when only God can be ruler. It's what made Adam and Eve choose to disobey the one and only rule in paradise, in the garden. And while I don't think it's related, God usually shows up opposite the circumstance as well. Cloud by day, fire by night, beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise for heaviness. It's the Spirit of God in our circumstance. It looks different. It looks the total opposite, and it's always better. Now, this theory isn't foolproof, because if we are rejoicing, He's rejoicing with us. But He's near to the brokenhearted, and He saves those who are crushed in spirit. He's a God of peace in the middle of chaos. He's a God of order, not disorder. And yet He's sovereign over it all, meaning He can dwell in chaos and be peace. He can command the storm to cease with a word, and yet He's perfectly content to sleep through the storm on a pillow. So, observations about God aside, I want to read something to you from Exodus chapter 14. Now, before I do, let me paint the scene for you. The Israelites are God's chosen people. They had been in slavery in Egypt for 430 years. And then by the mighty hand of God, through His servant Moses, God brought 10 plagues on the Egyptians in order to not so lightly convince them to let His people go. And God was faithful to do this. Pharaoh, the king of the Egyptians, finally let the people go. They left in the middle of the night during Passover, which, by the way, is coming up in April. And God led the people out with a cloud by day and fire at night, always going before them. Using this method, God led His people on a desert road by the Red Sea. And this is where we pick up in Exodus 14, starting in verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp near Pi-Hahiroth between Migdol and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea, directly opposite Baal-Zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain the glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So the Israelites did this. I want to go back real quick to verse 2, where it says, "Tell the Israelites to turn back." Y'all, these people have been slaves for 430 years, and they just got a glimpse of their freedom. They just got a glimpse of what the new season was about to look like. They just got a taste of the promises of God coming to fruition. And then suddenly, the Lord asks them to turn back? What? From their perspective, it looks as if God was teasing them and is saying, actually, I want you to go back to Egypt. I changed my mind. But the Lord had a plan. The Lord was faithful to His promises. And I know personally, this is exactly how I've felt this year so far. 2020, full of promise. All the prophecies have everything to do with promises fulfilled. Breakthrough, brand new seasons, no more muddy boots is actually a word I got personally. Like, I've been prepared for all the bad things because all I've known the past couple of years has been disappointment. And I got this word where this girl said, "You are wearing rain boots, preparing for the next storm," but God is saying no more muddy boots. There will be no more muddy boots. The sun is out. Springtime has come, the winter is over. So, I don't know about you, but 2020 has been promised to be joy for mourning. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy is also a verse that I've been standing on for this year. and for this virus to come out of what seems like nowhere. It's caught me off guard, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that can relate to this. So for those of you who feel the same way, let me encourage you with this. In the rest of this story, God was faithful to his promises. It may have looked like they were going back. It may have felt like they were moving backwards instead of forwards, but with God, there is no backwards. It's all progress. It's all forward momentum. And when it looks like you're going backwards, it's only God's purpose, his plan, in order to get more glory, in order to defeat your enemies. When I read this the first time, I actually thought about all the seasons of healing that I've walked through. And y'all, that always, without exception, has felt like going backwards. Like, I do not want to dig up the past in order to heal from it. That feels like moving backwards. I want to move forward. I don't want to think about it. I'm an Enneagram 7, so I don't want to face pain. But I will, because I trust my God. I have history with him that says he is faithful and that he is unchanging. And I know that to be true because his word says it's true and because I've experienced it. So I have testimony on top of the word. Some of you need to stand on the testimony that God has walked you through. Stand on the promises he has already fulfilled for you. Stand on what he's done for you in the past so that you can be confident in walking forward knowing that he is who he says he is. Not only that, but start declaring who he is into your future. Stand on the promises he's given you in his word, prophetically, to your own heart and spirit in your quiet time. If you haven't cultivated that relationship with God, then get into his word and start finding the promises he's already written to you in his word and start standing on those and start building that history. What a better gift of time than right now during this quarantine when you have more time on your hands and more solitude and more social distancing than to get on your knees, to get on your face, to worship the Lord, to ask him to teach you how to hear his voice, to get into his word, to know him, to learn him, to build relationship with him. I know there are so many of you who've been putting it off because you're too busy, you don't have time. Well, you don't have any more excuses. This is the time to develop that intimacy with the Father in the secret place. And he says that when you close your door and you pray to the Lord, your Father, in secret, he will reward you in public. And let me encourage you with one thing. If you've never done that before, if you've never cultivated that secret place relationship with the Lord, it is okay. In fact, it's wonderful to pick up a devotional or commit to some sort of ritual. Like, I'm going to wake up at this time every day and I'm going to read my Bible for this long. And the reason why that's okay is because ritual helps establish or develop that relationship with God. It's consistency. Now, real quick, this relationship with God is not about ritual, but ritual helps develop the relationship. Once you've built the relationship, the ritual isn't as necessary because it's not about ritual, it's about relationship. God is always about relationship over ritual, but don't let that make you throw the baby out with the bathwater, because also I hate that phrase. But it's true. We don't follow the rules and tradition of religion in place of relationship with God, but we can still use them in order to develop our relationship with God, which is why getting into the Bible consistently every single day is so vital, so crucial, especially for this time. And let me reiterate how beautiful this gift of time is. It's a time to seek him. It's a time to sit and behold his face. It's a time that may be like no other time in your entire lifetime. Take advantage of it and know that the same God that delivered the Israelites out of Egypt is the same God that miraculously opened up the Red Sea for his people to cross through on dry ground. And because he had them turn back and the enemies pursued them, they pursued them right into the middle of the sea, so that when every one of God's people had crossed through the Red Sea, he destroyed every single one of the enemies who were pursuing. Y'all, this is a crazy time. Unprecedented is the word that keeps coming up, which is so true, but it's also a divine opportunity, a reset, an acceleration, a time to rest and receive and build that relationship with God. For those of you who have already been doing this, it's a time to really dig into the well that you've built with him and drink deep, be refreshed, and enjoy him. The fruit of this season will show, whether that's the fruit of cultivating your relationship with God, building on your history with God, seeking his face, or the fruit of ignoring it and distracting yourself with things that mean nothing and won't mean anything in light of eternity. And lastly, I know that this is still a year of divine promises being fulfilled. I absolutely know that things will turn around, and I believe they will turn around a whole lot quicker than the news is predicting. So turn off the news and get into your secret place with the Lord. Turn on some worship music, soak, dance, worship, sing, journal. And when you journal, I want you to do this exercise we did during class this week. Number 1, write down your testimonies. Write down everything that God has done for you. And then 2, write down the promises He's given you for your future. Those 2 things are your battle plan for moving through this craziness with peace, with hope, and with a firm foundation on Jesus Christ, the only one who's made relationship with God possible for us by His death on the cross and His resurrection from the dead. For now, we are seated with Him in heavenly places, and the enemy is not allowed to come near us. This week is going to be amazing, y'all. Enjoy it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share it with a friend. If you want to support this ministry in any way, I would love to have you as a part of my Patreon family, or there are other ways to donate. There are links in the description box below and in the link in my Instagram bio. I love you, and I'm praying for you. Have a great week.